You know that feeling when everything just clicks? Your mind is sharp, your mood is steady, your body feels like it's firing on all cylinders. That's not luck, that's what your body is capable of every single day. Now, I've looked into a lot of fish oil supplements, and honestly, most of them are mystery sourced, overprocessed, blasted with heat, and packed with synthetic add-ins. But this one is different. Omega-3 Rejuvenate from Big Bold Health starts with wild Alaskan salmon and cod, sustainably caught from some of the cleanest waters on the planet, and then it's processed at low temperatures to preserve what actually matters. We're talking about real omega-3s, naturally occurring vitamins A and D, and pro-resolving mediators, or PRMs, that help your body balance its own immune response. What does that mean for you? Clearer thinking, more stable mood, and real nature-based support for your heart and immune system. No shortcuts, no synthetic nonsense. And it was developed by Dr. Jeffrey Bland, a true pioneer in the world of complementary health. If you want to feel the difference, go to bigboldhealth.com/Hoffman. That's bigboldhealth.com/Hoffman and use code Hoffman for 20% off site-wide. Once you feel it, you'll know. Welcome back to today's Intelligent Medicine Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Ronald Hoffman. This is your weekly opportunity to get your questions answered via questions@drhoffman.net. With me is Leyla Muden, who's our weekly co-contributor on Q&A with Leyla. That's why we call it Q&A with Leyla, because it, logically enough, it's with Leyla.
Yeah, that's me.
Right. And so two heads are better than one. Together we answer your questions. So what do we got in the inbox?
Okay. This comes from Michael. Would taking strontium be advisable to facilitate the healing of some lumbar fractures and or as a preventive along with other supplements that you've mentioned? I'm an 83-year-old male and I have not had a DEXA scan yet.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. So I have been for a long time a fan of strontium for osteoporosis.
Yes.
And I was an early adopter of strontium for osteoporosis, whereas in Europe it's a medication. Here it's not authorized as a medication, but it's available as a supplement. And in Europe it's not available as a supplement because it's a prescription medication. Europe has strontium ranelate. We have strontium citrate. I believe there's strontium carbonate as well, but it's mostly strontium citrate that we use here. And the way to look at strontium is that when you're building something and you're using concrete, you tend to want to use rebar in the concrete to reinforce the concrete. So metal rebar. And strontium is like calcium, but it's actually heavier. And it acts to kind of reinforce calcium. So what it'll do is in a DEXA, if you take strontium for a year or so, your DEXA will light up more. It'll actually show greater bone density. Some people criticize strontium on that basis as well. It's like a illusory because it just makes the bones light up more. But actually studies show that that results in a lower risk of vertebral fracture and hip fracture. So I found it helpful as a preventive. Now the question comes in, when you break a bone, is it helpful? And there's less research on that, but the studies that I've looked at show that it actually may help to accelerate bone healing. And namely, I've got a study here that shows that a 6-month treatment with strontium ranelate, that's the prescription kind, aids in healing, some studies showing improvements in 72.5% of cases, particularly with long bone or what are called non-union fractures, fractures that are hard to heal. It significantly reduces the risk of vertebral and non-vertebral fractures in postmenopausal women with osteoporosis. It does. They're also even exploring the local delivery of strontium to improve fracture healing and implant stability. So that is being looked at, and that suggests that strontium taken orally may have benefits, but even applying it right at the fracture site may help with healing as kind of a matrix for bone formation. And I mean, I think that could make sense. That could actually make sense if you have a fracture. This guy's not had a fracture, though. He's looking at it for prevention.
He's looking for prevention. He's not had a DEXA, and he's 83.
Well, I actually had this discussion with a former patient of mine who had moved to Scottsdale, Arizona, and I met him in Scottsdale at his invitation. He was very welcoming to me, and we had dinner, and I spent some time with him, and then he took me to the airport. He revealed that he had a vertebral fracture, and he was actually a very athletic guy who developed a respiratory infection, sat up in bed, started coughing, and had a tremendous back pain, and found that he had a vertebral fracture. And he said that why that is that he has a strong family history of osteoporosis, maybe with genetic. He had osteoporosis. He had never been scanned before. I think he was barely 70. And he, wanted to know if strontium was reasonable. And I said, yes, I think it would be reasonable for accelerating healing and reducing the likelihood of a subsequent vertebral fracture.
Yeah. I know it's part of the arsenal for osteoporosis, taking that along with other supplements and things. Yeah. So, Michael, he should probably have a DEXA anyway.
Yeah. But here's what also, this is also, there are medications that reduce the risk of osteoporosis, but they may be undesirable at the time of a fracture. They may actually prevent fractures, but not at the time of a fracture. Why? Because many of these medications prevent bone remodeling.
Yes.
They actually cause an accumulation of bone, but they don't allow remodeling. So there's the osteoblast and the osteoclast. The osteoclasts build bone, and many of the medications target osteoblasts, preventing bone breakdown. Well, bone breakdown and remodeling are important in fracture healing. Yes. And so I actually would be wary of taking an osteoporosis medication after, in the immediate aftermath of a fracture to allow normal bone remodeling and healing. I don't know if that's been assessed or tested.
Okay. That's quite the pearl. When you think about it, the way bisphosphonate medications work, like Fosamax, Boniva, Activin, is they slow down that turnover. Yeah. That turnover is part of the bone's metabolism and remodeling, and you don't want to get in the way of that when we're talking about healing a fracture. Yeah. Wow. I thought about that. Okay. I wonder then, would it be, say a woman or anybody with osteoporosis, they're taking those meds and things like that, and then they break their arm or break their leg in, falling down the stairs or something. Do they stop taking their Fosamax during that time?
If I were the prescriber, I would recommend a drug holiday. And once the healing has been accomplished after 6 months or so, I would say that given that they might still have heightened risk for osteoporosis, they might continue their medication.
Wow. Okay. All right. Good to know. Michael, thank you for that very thoughtful question. All right. Let's see here. This comes from Tony. Hi, Dr. Hoffman and Leyla. Dr. Hoffman, I enjoyed your vacation pictures of your recent New Zealand trip. Tony says, my question is about high sensitivity CRP, hs-CRP. I recently received notification from Medicare that it's not a covered test. Apparently, they only cover 3 of these tests for a lifetime.
Oh.
Whoa.
Oh.
Since I'm 80 years old, I must have exceeded that limit. Please explain the value of this test. Should I take it at my own expense?
Cost containment at the expense of the individual. I mean, they're looking for opportunities to enact cost containment. So they don't really want you to test your vitamin D, which is ultra important for health, for bones, etc. And they want to limit your access to tests. So they will test your cholesterol 6 ways to Sunday. Every time you go to the doctor's, let's test your cholesterol. Let's test, But there's more to atherosclerosis, as you well know, Leyla, than just your LDL number or your ratio of cholesterol to HDL or your triglycerides. There are other factors. And in fact, a guy named Paul Ridker was the first guy to identify hs-CRP as a risk factor for atherosclerosis.
Yes.
And what he demonstrated is that you can lower cholesterol all you want, but if you don't address highly sensitive C-reactive protein, which is an inflammatory marker, you still will have high risk for a MACE, major adverse cardiovascular event, a stroke or a heart attack.
Okay.
So what it is it is a rough measure of the inflammatory cytokines in your body.
Mm-hmm.
And there are two ways to check CRP. There's the ordinary C-reactive protein, which checks for your overall bodily level of inflammation. And then there's highly sensitive C-reactive protein, which supposedly checks for inflammation in your artery only, but doesn't really. Because if you have like a cold or a flu before in your body, you're going to get a distortion in your hs-CRP.
Yeah.
The
same may be true for allergy season.
Yeah, even that.
If you fell down and hurt yourself, because there's inflammation present, even if it's localized, it's kind of, okay.
But so hs-CRP is really important, and there are not a lot of drugs that address hs-CRP. It turns out that colchicine, one of the oldest drugs around, actually Egyptian papyri, which talk about extract of the crocus plant for treating various painful medical conditions like arthritis. Colchicine actually pretty effective for, for gout. It's used for gout.
Yeah.
And the pharaohs and the noble people ate high on the hog and developed gout. Commoners didn't get gout, but people who ate, too rich foods, too much sugar, they got gout. And colchicine was used in the time of the pharaohs from the crocus plant. Well, colchicine is anti-inflammatory, and they're actually now marketing a form of colchicine as a prescription drug to treat high hs-CRP. But I'm going to let you take the floor and talk about some natural ways to lower your hs-CRP. So take it away.
Well, first of all, you want to change your diet. You want to lower your sugar intake, your insulin. You want to get away from pro-inflammatory foods, anything ultra-processed, many of the vegetable and seed oils, any of the artificial sugars, soda, overusing over-the-counter medications, whether it's Tylenol or Advil or anything else like that.
There's actually a DII. There's a dietary inflammatory index. You can look it up. And it lists the pro-inflammatory foods and it lists the anti-inflammatory foods. And it kind of grades them on that continuum of it. Is it pro-inflammatory, anti-inflammatory? Unfortunately, they make a mistake. They say that meat is pro-inflammatory.
Yeah.
Mostly, it's not.
It's not.
Yeah.
Exactly. The most pro-inflammatory foods are the ultra-processed foods and sugar, especially starches, all of that. So that would be the way. And just simply
lose weight.
Yeah.
Lose weight. You
lose weight. Exactly.
Yeah.
I would recommend that anybody getting this particular blood test, if you have a cold, a flu, or anything, don't get it then.
Yeah.
Wait several weeks. Wait till you're completely over, all of that, and then get the test. Because if it is high, it could be because you had a cold.
Right. What about
during that period of time?
What about supplements that you would recommend to someone with a high hs-CRP?
Well, the supplements would be, things with, an antioxidant complex would be ideal. Maybe things like fish oil, anything anti-inflammatory, fish oil, or even, what's the one, SPM?
Yeah. Well,
example.
Actually, this is a good segue because our sponsor, Big Bold Health, makes a fish oil that is relatively unrefined. It's not industrially processed with harsh heat techniques and solvent extractions. And it actually contains natural, they refer to them as PRMs, pro-resolving mediators, which specifically target inflammation, even to a greater degree than just EPA and DHA, which many fish oil supplements just deliver EPA, DHA. They're highly purified. That's good. But you get the additional benefits of these pro-resolving mediators, which are wonderfully anti-inflammatory. I take separate SPMs, but now that I take the Big Bold Health fish oil, I'm already getting some pro-resolving mediators there. And then maybe curcumin, maybe boswellia,
Yeah.
maybe things like pycnogenol, grapeseed,
Yes.
there's also some thought that another product by Big Bold Health, which is the Himalayan tartary buckwheat, has anti-inflammatory effects. Hops is a nice anti-inflammatory thing. So,
What do you think of systemic enzymes? A
sure,
lobe enzyme type
that
thing.
too. Yeah, that can be good.
Well. Yeah.
I guess olive oil contains
Olive
wonderful
oil.
anti-inflammatory substances.
Yes.
So, a lifestyle approach. Also, when it comes to exercise, too much exercise will raise your inflammation, but moderate exercise will tune up your anti-inflammatory. It's like hormesis. It's a little bit of stress will actually get your body to counteract the inflammation.
Right. We'll kind of prime it to get going and challenge it up and keep it strong in that kind of a way. So that's important too.
Maybe EGCG from green tea. You drink a lot of tea. I've tried, because I'm very reliant on decaf coffee. And I said, I got to change a little bit and resist the temptation to have decaf coffee in the morning and have a little tea,
Yeah.
So,
yeah. There you go. Tony, thank you for your question. I think now's another good time to hear from one of our sponsors.
That's why it's Q&A with Leyla, because you have such great suggestions. So, okay, so here goes. Listen up.
Kids don't just bring home homework, they bring home germs. And those germs don't just stay with them, they spread to the whole household. That's why Clear Nasal Spray was created by a practicing physician to give parents and grandparents peace of mind. You may not think about it, but your nose is filtering out a semi-truck full of air every single day. Clear isn't just another spray. It creates an additional layer of protection in your nose that blocks bacteria and viruses before they can even take hold. Yes, even that virus. Supporting your body's defenses right where germs first try to enter. Clear is a hygiene product recommended for daily use, drug-free, non-drowsy, and safe for all ages. Just a quick spray in the morning and evening helps you cleanse your nose. Don't just hope for protection, create it. Get Clear Nasal Spray, your daily defense. Clear Nasal Spray is available at retailers nationwide and online. Check out Xlear.com for our special offers. That's Xlear.com.
Thanks for listening, and thanks for supporting our sponsors. They are what make intelligent medicine a continuing free resource to you. And now back to our question. Hey, did you know that we ran a series, we reprised a series, which is, it was Women's Month and Nutrition Month in March. So I ran a series a couple of years ago about great woman nutritionists. So we had, Mary Enig, and, we had, some of the greats in the field of nutrition, women nutritionists. Because I guess, I don't know, maybe traditionally women are a little closer to the hearth, so they make great nutritionists. And culminating the month on March 30th or 31st, you were featured.
Oh,
and I know that you don't go on social media, so you didn't see it. But
so I had no idea. Yeah,
and there were like a lot of great comments, like, "Yeah, Leyla is great. Yeah, we love Leyla." So
that's nice.
Thanks. You have a fan club. You have a fan club out there.
That's nice. Thank you, Dr. Hall.
Right. You continue in the tradition of the nutritional greats.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Mildred Seelig and, the magnesium lady and, all these luminaries in the field of nutrition.
It's a privilege to be Davis. Adele Davis, my goodness. Yeah.
Frances Moore LaPay, Diet for a Small Planet, all that stuff. Right.
Yeah. Privilege to be in any of the companies. All right. We have an email here from Sue. Hi, Dr. Hoffman. I eat canned sardines and or canned wild-caught salmon at least 3 or 4 times a week. Is this a healthy way to eat fish, or are there any drawbacks to eating canned fish? I find it difficult to get enough protein every day, and canned fish is a quick, easy solution.
Totally. That's totally great.
I'm a big fan of canned fish.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you can get your head around sardines, that's a big plus, because they're an oily fish. They deliver a lot of omega-3 plus all these other ineffable things that are present in fish.
Yes.
Dr. Jeff Bland and I discussed why many studies suggest that people who eat fish have definite health benefits. While it remains a little controversial about, whether you take EPA, DHA, whether it really does the trick, whether it's equivalent to eating fish.
Eating omega-3 food. Yeah.
So the good thing about sardines is that they're small fish, so they don't accumulate, and they're short-lived, and they don't accumulate as much pollutants as large-bodied fish that live a long time.
True.
So the worst, swordfish, tuna, they are large-bodied fish. They live a long time. They eat high in the food chain, and they accumulate toxins, mercury, and also, potentially chemical residues like PCBs. Well, the salmon, interestingly, the salmon that you get as these beautiful fillets is mostly farmed. But the salmon that goes in cans is often line caught. It's like smaller salmon, which are less desirable for, making your salmon fillet or your salmon steak.
Right. It's kind of in line with the ugly vegetable, the carrot with one head and two sticks coming out of it. These aren't sold at the grocery store. So these lesser the misshapen or the smaller or the not quite ready for consumption type in terms of how it looks, those go into the cans.
Yeah. So, but the concern is the can liners, and the can liners used to be BPA. I think they've gone away from BPA, but they've substituted maybe some not desirable
like
things.
a BPS or some other thing, which I'm not a huge fan of. But I'll tell you what, it doesn't keep me away from canned fish because I know that I'm sourcing it well. So kudos to Sue for, sardines and salmon. Those would be the ones to get. And so much of the canned salmon, you may find even engraved in the lid of the can that it's wild Alaskan salmon, which is always what you're looking for.
Right.
You could go to a restaurant, and if what they have on special is wild Alaskan salmon, it's likely you're not getting that unless you're going to a 4-star, 5-star seafood restaurant. Yeah. But you're certainly being charged for it.
Yeah.
Right.
I think there's a lot of counterfeiting going on. I imagine it's, So what can you do, short of just like eating it like cat food, because it comes out of a can that smells fishy, what can you do to make those foods appealing?
Yeah. Well, sardines, I'll eat straight out of can. Apparently Sue does too, but you could take them out, you can drain them, you could chop up some scallion or some red onion, maybe have it with a touch of mustard or something like that. Eat it with a fork.
You could make a sardine salad, actually. Yeah. Yeah. Like tuna salad. Yeah.
Absolutely. You could do the same with salmon.
Right.
In fact,
salmon salad.
Salmon, you could do the same.
Yeah.
In fact, there's a wonderful, I'm not a huge fan of canned salmon. However, I will make a salmon salad in supper. It's featured in the Intelligent Medicine at drhoffman.com. I've written about it in the past, where you take the canned salmon, you drain it, you flake it up into a bowl, you add some chopped parsley, some lemon juice, some chopped scallion or red onion, maybe a can of small white beans or cannelloni beans, kind of make it go a little farther, douse it in some olive oil, some lemon juice. Did I say lemon juice? It's a beautiful, beautiful salmon salad.
You're making me hungry. You're making me hungry.
I know. It's just delicious in summer because you don't have to cook it if it's too hot, and it just lands well. It's just very nice on the plate.
What I like is salmon croquettes. I think salmon croquettes are really good. But to knead the salmon together, you need some kind of, rather than breadcrumbs, I will use sometimes gluten-free breadcrumbs.
Yes.
Or you can even use rice, and you can put it together that way.
Along with the egg and so forth. Yeah. I think that's good. Or salmon croquettes are delicious.
Well, one way to do it, if you're not allergic to wheat, is you can mix it with matzo meal.
There you go.
Matzo meal, yeah.
Oh, wow. Sure.
Which, we just had Passover, so it's...
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
You have to leftover matzo meal from the matzo balls, or the gefilte fish.
There's always canned sardines in my cupboard, along with low mercury tuna, which I adore, and it's a really good quality Italian tuna.
What makes a tuna low mercury? Is it like a smaller?
Well, they harvest it. It's smaller.
Yeah.
They harvest it earlier.
Yeah.
And the two main sources we get mercury are silver amalgams or dental fillings, as well as the seafood we're eating.
Yeah.
So knock wood, I have no amalgams of any kind in my
Uh-huh.
mouth.
Uh-huh.
And so I will enjoy my low mercury tuna a couple or maybe 3 times a month.
Yeah, and it's very convenient. You know, it's like you don't have to cook it. You know,
It's delicious.
yeah.
And I don't do the mayonnaise thing with it. I just,
Yeah.
pour it out
Uh,
and a little lemon juice, and it's wonderful. Maybe a little chopped onion. That's it.
I'm a big mayonnaise guy. I
Niçoise.
gotta
It's
say.
a niçoise more than anything.
Yeah. Well, that niçoise, salad
Niçoise is fine.
niçoise. Yeah, that's something to
Salad
make for
niçoise is
sure.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the net result is making me hungry. So let's move on to the next question.
Yeah. Sue, thank you for that question. That's a great question. Okay. Danny is asking about Arterosil supplement. It's advertised, he says, for cardiovascular health, especially when it comes to soft plaque as imaged on a clear retest, for example. He's wondering what your thoughts are on taking that glycocalyx product called Arterosil.
It kind of speaks to the question of, we're a little bit fixated on just cholesterol alone. And it is demonstrably true that if you lower cholesterol, you will somewhat reduce the risk of a cardiovascular event by a certain percentage. But you will not obliterate your risk of cardiovascular events, even if you lower your LDL to, low double digits. Now they're recommending that you get your LDL down to less than 55 or less than 30 in some cases. They have new powerful drugs that will just knock the hell out of your cholesterol. So there are other factors. We mentioned C-reactive protein. Other factors include homocysteine and also LP(a). But what we have to think about is that the condition of the lining of the arteries, which is the endothelium, to some extent determines the risk of cardiovascular disease, blood clots, and so on, narrowing. And so this Arterosil is kind of interesting because it is, and it was pitched by a guy who is pretty well-known and dependable. That's Dr.
Mark Houston
Mark Houston, who I admire. I've had him as a guest, and he's a really good scientist. And he believes that there is something about something called rhamnan sulfate, which is a polysaccharide from green seaweed. That, that sounds weird, like seaweed. Oh, take seaweed for your arteries. But actually, they've done some research on this stuff. And here's a study: oral administration of rhamnan sulfate from green seaweed suppresses inflammation and suppresses the formation of atherosclerotic plaques.
Wow.
They did studies on ApoE deficient mice, which are prone to cardiovascular risk. There's a model for atherosclerosis in humans. They were fed a high-fat diet. They found that oral administration of this rhamnan sulfate, which is the ingredient in Arterosil, significantly reduced the formation of atherosclerotic plaque. So, I have to say that there's not enough human studies, but to do human studies, very expensive, takes a long time. You'd have to take this stuff for like 10 or 20 years and then, break the seal on the double-blind placebo-controlled trial to see who got cardiovascular disease and who did not.
Yeah.
So it's plausible based on what's called preclinical. Preclinical means looking at test tube and looking at animals. It's not, I'll admit, it's not that well vetted in humans, but I think it's got some plausibility. So I have to say, I haven't used it that much. It's a relatively new thing. And do you have any patients at very high risk for heart attack and stroke?
Certainly many, but this isn't, you know what? I don't think it's been around long enough where I'm actually prescribing it or anything, or people are coming to me and they're already taking it.
Okay.
Certainly I don't take them off of it.
Right.
I don't see the harm.
I think it's available on Fullscript.
Yes.
It is called Arterosil.
Yes, Arterosil.
I looked it up. It is rather pricey. It seems to cost like $100 a bottle for like 60.
Whoa.
And, so I think it's a candidate. It's a plausible candidate for cardiovascular prevention.
Yeah. Yeah. Just to remind everybody who, I've even heard people say, people who are taking Lipitor or something, they're taking a statin for their cholesterol or their, and, they'll have a little more cake or a little more bread and they'll say, I'll just take a little more Lipitor. You don't want to pop these supplements thinking that you're keeping everything at bay and able to stay on your bad diet, on your standard American diet. You don't want to do that. You don't want to rely on a supplement such as this. We're still waiting for maybe more research on it. It's not an excuse to go eat, a half loaf of pound cake.
It's not an antidote.
Or something. It's not exactly. So that still has its consequences.
I'll also point out that some people will say, I'm already taking a statin. I don't need to take this stuff. I'm already taking a statin. But if you have a stent or you've had bypass surgery or if you've had a heart attack or a stroke, that's kind of a warning sign that you should be taking a multifaceted approach to prevention. And yes, perhaps statin plays a role, or some of these new PCSK9 drugs. They're going to come up with oral forms of them, and that's going to revolutionize prevention of cardiovascular disease and treatment. But you really want to take a multi-factor approach and look at all your risk factors, like your highly sensitive C-reactive protein and your LPA, and are you insulin resistant? Is your blood sugar high? What's your hemoglobin A1C? If your hemoglobin A1C is 6.2 and you're taking a statin, well, you've only addressed part of the problem.
Exactly.
So I think some people erroneously think, well, okay, I'm taking a conventional medicine. I'm done. That's, one size fits all.
That's right. Right. But no. And coming back to osteoporosis as an example, Dr. Hoffman, maybe you are taking Fosamax, but you should also still be taking your magnesium, your vitamin D, maybe a smaller dose of calcium. You would still be helped by Ostera, which is made of hops. You would certainly be helped by strontium.
Doing resistance exercises.
Exactly. Make sure you're getting adequate protein. And now the numbers on adequate protein has changed. It's higher where it should be, which we've been screaming for at least a couple of decades now, and they finally listened. So here we are. We need more animal protein, especially as we get older, more high biological value protein to support our muscles, our bones, and to resist sarcopenia and osteopenia and osteoporosis. Yeah.
Slight correction. I said that all the evidence on this Arterosil was in preclinical. They actually did a study on humans, and they found that a small study, they found that the Arterosil reduced the maximum chlorotic plaque thickness in humans.
Wow.
So that's a small study, an encouraging study that suggested that by use of this, that it did actually have some potential efficacy in humans. Again, they didn't look at endpoints like, did they have less strokes? Did they have less heart attacks? That would take longer and bigger and more expensive studies.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So, Danny, there you go. Arterosil. All right. That glycocalyx made of seaweed. Seaweed is also a source of kelp. I'm also thinking vitamin K and where might be the relationship there. That's also beneficial for arterial health as well. So that's something. All right. Okay. A reminder to all of you to email us. That's questions@drhoffman.net. That's questions@drhoffman.net. And don't forget that you could shop hundreds of curated vetted supplements in Dr. Hoffman's full script dispensary. Go to drhoffmanstore.com. That's drhoffmanstore.com. It's only the highest quality supplements. You'll have a hard time finding them elsewhere. And they're the same supplements he takes that I take as well. And so look for the custom protocols. You can begin with the starter kit and expand on to other specific health concerns like bone. We've been talking about osteoporosis, like brain, detox, immune, sleep and stress support. So don't forget, go to drhoffmanstore.com.
And apropos of that, the company PFLB, Protocol for Life Balance, one of our sponsors, they have undertaken to their own expense studies of the products that are available on Amazon. Now, I'm not saying that everything available on Amazon is bad, but they don't have the capability to do whack-a-mole on fraudulent products. They don't really exercise a lot of quality control. I mean, if something is really toxic or dangerous or is killing people, they'll take it off. They'll, that will prompt action. But it's a free fire zone. You can, a small company that is disreputable can put products on Amazon and sell them at what seems like an extraordinary price point. So if you're shopping by price point, you say, well, CoQ10, oh my goodness, here's some CoQ10. It's like $9.99 for, $300 in a bottle. You better make sure that it is up to the standards of potency. And they actually recently did this on oregano extracts. Now, oregano is good as a natural, it's actually a natural antibiotic and antifungal. So oregano we use a lot in treating gastrointestinal problems because, bacterial overgrowth, it'll actually, rather than take an antibiotic, prescription antibiotic, you can take oregano, it will suppress the growth of bad bacteria. They standardized, they looked at the profile for the ingredient that's most important. It's called carvacol. And they found that the majority of products did not meet label claims. They either had less than or none of the active ingredient. And so it was either diluted or mixed or, put some other, weird things in there.
You're getting some kind of counterfeit as well.
So and that's why I like Fullscript, because I really can depend on Fullscript. They have, they take responsibility for the products they're there. I actually talked to some of the manufacturers and I said, why aren't you on Fullscript? And they said, well, they're putting us through so much. They're putting us through all these hurdles, loops, and, we have to prove like certifications of authenticity and, lab tests, and I said, I said, look, once you're on there, at least, you will have greater credibility,
Absolutely. So that's why that's the place to go. All right.
Good stuff. All right. Thanks very much for joining us. Remember to listen to all our podcasts through the week. They're all great. Recently, I did a couple of great ones. One particular that I enjoyed with Dr. Jeffrey Bland, worth listening to. And Leyla's got some as well. Go to your favorite podcast purveyor. We're on Apple Podcasts. You can get transcripts there too. Say you don't like to listen. Some people don't like to listen. They like to read. Fine. Go to Apple Podcasts and download a transcript of one of our podcasts if you go there. That's courtesy of artificial intelligence. So take advantage of all the resources available to you. Subscribe to our newsletter and listen to the weekly radio program that I do as well.
Yes. Thanks, everybody.
I'm Dr. Ronald Hoffman, and this is the Intelligent Medicine Podcast. I want to thank you for listening to the Intelligent Medicine Podcast. Follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, or your favorite podcast app, and get new episodes automatically downloaded every weekday. And please give us a rating and review. It truly helps new people discover intelligent medicine. The Intelligent Medicine Podcast is for general informational purposes only and does not constitute the practice of medicine, nursing, or other professional healthcare services, including the giving of medical advice, and no doctor-patient relationship is formed. The use of information on this podcast or materials linked from this podcast is at the user's own risk. The content of this podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Users should not disregard or delay in obtaining medical advice for any medical condition they may have and should seek the assistance of their healthcare professionals for any such conditions. Finally, please visit drhoffman.com and discover everything Intelligent Medicine has to offer, including frequently updated, unbiased health news and fully vetted product and supplement recommendations.
This is Leyla Muden, registered dietitian nutritionist. I maintain a private practice and see patients regularly. If you require a nutrition consult with me but live out of town, there's no need to travel to New York City. I have telephone and telehealth consultations with clients from all over the country. Please visit drhoffman.com for more information. And to set up an appointment, call 212-779-1744. That's 212-779-1744. I look forward to being a collaborator in your healthcare.